Well, we've never observed a debt ceiling. I mean, if we actually were going to have a debt ceiling that they observe, that would be a good thing. If what he's suggesting is that the debt ceiling itself is fraud, because after a bunch of procedural wrangling, they avoid it, then I would agree with him. My suspicion is that a debt ceiling is inconvenient for him. He figures it's his turn to prioritize his spending as opposed to democratic spending. At the risk of offending people around the holiday season, I'm bipartisan. I don't like Republican spending, and I don't like Democratic spending. I do feel if what he's saying is that the debt ceiling is artificial and fraudulent, I agree with that. I happen to think it's necessary, but I've observed for my entire adult life them finding procedural ways around the debt ceiling. So there isn't one, despite the fact that it's law. A bigger issue, I think, that Americans pay no attention to is that most of the government debt isn't on balance sheet. The debt ceiling involves $36 trillion owed to bondholders. The Congressional Budget Office, not some cranky old fat libertarian named Rick Rule, the Congressional Budget Office says that the net present value of unfunded government liabilities, that's entitlements, exceeds $100 trillion. That $100 trillion, they acknowledge its existence, isn't even discussed in the debt
Why,
ceiling
why not?
because it's fraud. It's absolute fraud. Up till now, entitlements have been the third rail of American politics. Touch it and you will die. Vote for it today and you will be out of office before the bill comes due. But Daniela, the bill is coming due. The bill is truly, truly, truly coming through. I honestly do my best every day, as I think you note on social media, at trying to call people's attention to $100 trillion in off-balance sheet liabilities and the impossibility that fairly naive voters who believe that they will receive these benefits will actually receive them. I actually think that those of us who are numerate are committing fraud by causing people to believe that benefits will be there for them when they will not. An optimist about the American economy, despite our government and despite our differences as people, we still have a culture where 5 or 6 kids can take over a garage in Sunnyvale, California, and out pops Google. I mean, we're astonishing in that our individual creativity, our individual tenacity can fund our collective stupidity. It's just that our collective stupidity is beginning to win. The arithmetic around our collective debts is too high. I think I know the way out of it, Daniela, and it's truly ugly. We'll fiddle around the edges. In Social Security, as an example, we will raise the eligibility year. It'll be a fight, but it'll happen. We will also remove the cap on contributions so that old fat rich guys like me, rather than having their income cap at $160,000, will have it unlimited. At the same time that we means test the benefit, which means that the theft from people like me will become overt as opposed to covert. But none of that's enough. What we will ultimately do is solve the problem, if that's the right phrase,
Mm-hmm.
by devaluing the US dollar enough that the net present value of the obligation is removed. That is to say, some old codger who has been promised $4,000 a month by Social Security will continue to get it, but the $4,000 will buy what $600 or $700 used to do. We faced this in the 1970s, Daniela. The marginal tax rate was at 70%, but government debt, government obligations were still unserviceable. According to the US government's calculation, the spending power of the US dollar declined by 75% in 10 years. We honored the nominal value of our obligations by inflating away the net present value of those obligations. And in this circumstance, past is prologue. It doesn't make me happy to say this. $100 trillion in off-balance sheet promises. That's the net present value, not the nominal value. Let's do the arithmetic.
Yeah.
The IRS suggests that the private net worth of Americans, not the government's money, but the private net worth of Americans, is about $141 trillion. Big sum of money, right? On-balance sheet liabilities are 36 trillion. Off-balance sheet liabilities are 100 trillion. That's 136 trillion out of 141 trillion. Now, that's not if you increase taxes on the billionaires. That's if you stole all of everyone's wealth. They say, if we just tax the billionaires, the problem goes away. The aggregate net worth of the billionaires, according to the IRS, is $5.6 trillion. If you stole all of their money, you would operate the U.S. government for 15 months, and you wouldn't deal with the debt.
So if you were to implement a flat tax, does it make the problem worse?
No, I think it probably makes the problem better over time. The way you get out of this is somehow devaluing the benefits while at the same time you allow the economy to grow. I mean, make no mistake, we'll get through this. We'll get through it just the way we got through it in the 70s. It will be ugly, and there will be winners and there will be losers. I'm not one of these people who say that the U.S. is going to implode, that the U.S. dollar is going to zero,
Yeah.
the U.S. Treasury market is going the way of a dodo. That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that there's going to be losers. There's going to be lots of them. It's going to be very unpleasant, and we need to begin to discuss getting through this now. That's all I'm saying. Absolutely not. I hope I'm wrong. I would encourage people who are encouraged themselves by the concept of the Department of Government Efficiency to consider two things. Mr. Musk partly became a billionaire out of subsidies. That's the first thing. The second thing is a little uglier and a little more pernicious. Read a book called The Triumph of Politics by our mutual friend David Stockman.
Mm-hmm.
He was the director of the Office of Management and Budget under Reagan.
Yep.
Reagan actually had a popular mandate to reduce the size of government, a much larger popular mandate than President-elect Trump has. And in the book, The Triumph of Politics, David Stockman details how the political process, how the interest groups, including Republican interest groups, derailed the Reagan Revolution in 120 days. Now, I'm encouraged that David Stockman is encouraged because he literally wrote the book on how the swamp fights back being drained.
Right.
But I would encourage people who are really interested in the issue, not those who want to rely on popular media, to read the book, The Triumph of Politics. The only problem with Frank's comment is that he didn't mention the growth in the off-balance sheet debt. In other words, Frank seriously understated the problem. The accretion of on-balance sheet liabilities is $2.5 trillion a year. The accretion of off-balance sheet liabilities is also $2.5 trillion a year. I was going to say the elephant in the room. That's wrong. The blue whale in the room is the off-balance sheet liabilities, which are 3 times the size of the official sector government debt. Now, we could be honest and default, but it's unlikely that we'll do that, isn't it? I think it's completely unlikely. I mean, yes, we will default around the edges. Social Security was supposed to be an insurance scheme, a government-funded insurance scheme. It is going to become an overt transfer scheme. They are, as I suggest, for people like me and Frank and you, going to remove the cap on our contributions. And then they're going to means test it. So they will increase our contribution while eliminating our receipt. That takes care of the insurance part. They will do this because they have no second choice and because it's very popular politics. But it won't matter. It won't matter at all. what I
Or,
really like
yeah,
recently was the fact that Elon Musk and X canceled the spending bill. There was 1,100 pages in an interim spending
yes,
bill. These are best described as Christmas trees, meaning that there are ornaments all over the thing that are benefits to special interest groups. There was bipartisan consensus in Congress. Republicans and Democrats were all in favor of distributing goodies to special interest groups. And Musk basically went to the X constituency and said that Republican senators and congressmen who favor this bill should not be elected again. And that was the end of it. Now, there are people who suggest that an unelected bureaucrat, Elon Musk, held Congress hostage. I would suggest to you that the citizenry who have been held hostage by Congress, for the first time in my life, objected to an omnibus spending bill and stopped it. And I think that that's extremely valuable. Extremely valuable. Will there be people hurt? Yes. There is a possibility that a whole bunch of assistance checks in the near term don't go out over Christmas. There is a chance that many federal workers, some of whom work, won't be
some of,
paid. Will there be costs? Yes. But we're being held hostage by the specter of the damage that this will do, impacting our ability to look at the harm that these spending bills, these 1,100-page spending bills that Congress has 4 days to look at,